It is an honor, as always, to spend time with female entrepreneurs because one thing I know that when as women, when we build brilliance in ourselves, we transform not only ourselves but our families, our communities. My dashboard's weird. There we go. Our families, our communities, our workplaces, and our world. That I love the book The Moment of Lift, I believe it was called, by Melinda Gates. I almost got that confused by an uplift book on educational leadership there for a second. I think Stacy, seeing you, I think leader, I think education. And in Melinda Gates' book, she talked about how when you uplift women, you uplift humanity. And I love that. And so, what's amazing about uplifting women and working with female business owners is that we all have this experience where doubt creeps in. And a couple weeks ago, in episode 48 of my podcast, I talked about give yourself Goldilocks grace. And we talked about the just right amount of grace that we need to experience in our lives. And that Goldilocks grace period is the delicate balance between practicing self compassion and honoring ourselves and our feelings, and practicing a high degree of accountability and discipline and discernment and determination. And that there's that Goldilocks middle. When we give ourselves too much grace, we can fall into complacency, procrastination, a bit of stagnation. Um, and then when we give ourselves too little grace, we end up being overly critical and harsh towards ourselves, which overflows into our relationships, and we start to practice criticism and judgment towards others. And then we ultimately experience burnout, anxiety, and high degrees of self-doubt. So I want to go through the 10 symptoms of self-doubt today because this week I was really pushing the edge of my comfort zone professionally and trying and exploring new things. And that means you've got to have a strong relationship with failure. I really struggle with that. Oh, as a high achiever, a lot of us are very high achieving women, and we struggle when failure presents itself and we go into the negative narratives. And I want to share these symptoms. So grab your journal. Remember, we're note takers. The sad reality of my life is you will only remember 20% of this 30 days from now, but we can dial that up to 50% if you take notes and 90% if you take action. So this is very intentionally designed. My formula for success as a facilitator is knowledge plus emotion plus action equals change. That's the formula you need to make change present in your life. You have to have knowledge, right? When we know better, we do better. You have to emotionally feel like doing it or have the systems in place, the structures in place to get you to do things when you don't feel like it. That's something I work on very intelligent or very intentionally. I almost said intelligently. We do it intelligently too in High Performance Leadership Academy. And the specific actions. So all of my trainings with you are always focused on taking action. Not only because then you'll remember and get these concepts into your long-term memory, but you'll also experience the change that you're striving for. So, symptoms of self-doubt. The first one is, you've probably guessed it, procrastination. Anybody? You delay tasks. And we tend to do that because underneath that delay is our fear of failure, our fear of judgment, and our fear of being classified and sorted. We live in a system that classified and sorted us starting in the educational days. I loved Susan Ohanian's book. She wrote, it was titled, What Happened to Recess and Why Are Our Children Struggling in Kindergarten? I literally read that book in 2002 in my first master's program, and I have never forgotten her words about challenging us as educators to look at schools differently, that schools aren't designed to be a classifying and sorting system, or maybe they were designed to be that. However, as rebels with causes, we can change that reality. The second symptom is indecisiveness. This one happens to me big time in my business, especially in the early stages as I'm identifying my ideal client and the curriculum that we're going to go through. And then I see other needs and I want to go back and change things, or I start to think maybe I should do this instead of that. And I start to go into analysis paralysis and overthinking. Those are 2 out of the 4 symptoms of fear, which is a totally different topic. But if you see yourself overanalyzing things and overthinking things, those are good signs that you're in a fear-based modality. And that leads us to indecisiveness. We struggle and we start to second guess ourselves. That negative narrative comes in. That's point 3. Negative self-talk. We start criticizing ourselves. We start anticipating and expecting the absolute worst. The fourth one, this one is one that I see a lot of people struggle with, myself included, if I'm being honest. Perfectionism. We have these unrealistic standards, and then we're overly critical when we don't meet them. For me, my biggest over realistic standard is often time. It's a time horizon. I set a very aggressive timeline and goal for myself, and then I end up in a circumstance that I'm not typically too happy with. So, that perfectionism and unrealistic standard associated with that can often lead us to very strong feelings of self doubt. Avoidance, steering clear of the challenge altogether, or avoiding new opportunities. Having that narrative and that whisper of what you really want to do, but ignoring it and avoiding it. That's the desires of your heart, baby. You got to listen to those words. Number 6 is low self-esteem. Often we don't perceive ourselves as having low self-esteem, yet when I looked into that, it was about feeling unworthy or incapable of success. And I think that we all feel unworthy. I was so validated, I still have the book here on my desk even, to see that even the CEO of the first female CEO of a ultra high performing cosmetic company experienced feelings of unworthiness. So much so that she wrote an entire book about it. Hello, that tells you something. And that often a lot of us feel that, sometimes it's called imposter syndrome. We feel that sense of, who am I to? I want you to shift that. Who am I not to, baby? Seeking excessive validation. This one comes up a lot for us as entrepreneurs, relying heavily on others for approval or reassurance. So often we go out into our business, we do this through our social feeds. We look for that approval, that reassurance that we're on the right track. Clients that sign on and say yes and join us, we seek that validation and we place a high degree of value on it, and that can lead us to self-doubt as well. Fear of failure, being paralyzed by the possibility of making mistakes. Imposter syndrome, where you believe your success is undeserved and fearing being exposed as a fraud. So that's slightly different than what we talked about earlier of feeling unworthy, right? That imposter syndrome is really feeling like your success was undeserved. I have a high performance coaching client who is literally in the top 1% of her field. And she often tells me, whenever I ask her to unpack her success, she says, I was just lucky. And it's not true. Luck favors the bold. Luck favors the committed. Luck favors the disciplined, determined, intelligent, the person who's listening to professional development on a Sunday. That you created your luck. So believing that our successes are undeserved versus our successes were earned and part of our soul's contract, what we came here to learn and experience. And so I know for a fact I came here to play outside of the sandbox. I know for a fact I came here to be farther out of left field, so far out that I'm not even in the vicinity of the ball game. I think so far outside of the box that sometimes I don't even realize there is a box. And I know I didn't come here to play small or lead an average life. And I know you didn't either. And so that's a big part of believing our success is tied to our soul's contract, our destiny. We came here. The earth is a playground and space for our souls to learn. This was a big lesson that I started learning last October. Life is a classroom, not a courtroom. As I started doing work to expand my consciousness and spiritual awakening, I started to learn that there are 3 dimensions that we experience here on earth. So as celestial beings having a human experience, when we carnate into this lifetime, our soul contracts for certain experiences from which we can learn. Life is a classroom, not a courtroom. When our soul carnates on earth, earth is a learning space. It's a learning playground that exists in the galaxies. So we're just here playing, learning, having fun. Our success is entirely deserved and predetermined. We've already decided to be successful. So can we just say, let's get out of our own way, ladies? I know for myself, I am the number one obstacle in between me and my desired goal each and every day. It's why I train on high performance leadership, because every single day, each and every one of us lead the most difficult person on the planet. That's ourselves. I created an empowered leadership model. This would be one to take note of in my dissertation research. The outer circle is S for self, nested in that O for others, and even smaller L for leaders. So making that the three nested circles, some of us have the great honor of leading others, and some have the great honor of leading leaders. I've had the honor of doing all three of those things, and I can undoubtedly, without any question, tell you that there is one person who is always on my mind that is difficult to lead, and that is myself. And I know that's true of all of us because we're all human and we share in that human experience. The 10th and final symptom of self-doubt, as we prepare to shift into what to do about this, is anxiety of stress. When we're experiencing high levels of worry and tension, especially in new or challenging situations, that's a symptom of self-doubt. So how do we stop doubting ourselves? We've got to choose faith over fear. We hear that a lot, right? Faith over fear. I even wrote it down to have a visual for you. Ba-da-ba, faith over fear. So one way to choose, I want you to write this in your notes. We're going to create a continuum together. And we have the positive and the negative. You've got to understand this. This is your believing mechanism. And we're going to get into the ladder of identity later because I want you forming an identity in believing in faith and the positive choices that you're going to make to achieve the outcomes that you came here to achieve. I came here to make waves and do big things. And every single day I stare in the face of my business and I think about, should I just go back to the safety and stability and security of corporate? Why do I do that to myself? I have absolutely no idea. Well, I do have an idea. A 6-figure bonus is sure a nice thing to have. And I haven't got one of those yet in my personal business. And the insurance, the benefits, the perks, the unlimited PTO, all of those things are a lot easier than what I'm doing in my business. But what I'm doing in my business gives me time and financial freedom. What I'm doing in my business gives me summertime to play with my daughter. It gives me the opportunity to homeschool her and educate her. It gives me the opportunity, and that's only important really because she gets her work done in 3 hours. So it's ridiculous to go spend 7 hours a day in a brick and mortar building to be bullied and wonder if you're going to have a shooting that day. So it's been a better experience for us to school at home, spend 3 hours in an intense learning environment, and then the rest of the 4-hour day at the barn doing what my daughter loves, learning to jump and reach her life's goals. So she's one of the few who came here knowing exactly what she wanted. And so that's our personal journey. I need freedom from the corporate or traditional 9 to 5 or 7 to 3 or 7 to 7 for those of you who are educators, right? You know your day's the longest of all the days. I've worked in education, government and politics and corporate, and by far the hardest job on the planet is education. So Stacy, I shout out to you, girl. Celebration to all of our educators. Educators have a heart of gold. There's a reason that we wake up like me at 2:20 this morning, divinely downloading this message. 10 symptoms of self-doubt was not something I prayed before bed about, but it was what was gifted to me as something that needs to be shared with our community of women entrepreneurs this morning. And for those of you joining in my personal group, I just felt like you guys got to get in on this too because it is divinely delivered, and those are the best messages in my opinion. So I want you to think about, you have a believing mechanism that is built within your brain. And you've got to understand this so that you can understand your operating system. You see, we care more about our OS in our laptops than we do in our bodies. And I want to change that, right? I want us to be focused on our high performance psychology, our high performance physiology, high performance productivity, high performance presence, high performance purpose, and high performance. I don't usually say high performance before all those 6s. This is my reminder from my pastor that we're supposed to be saying one prayer for 1 minute about one topic. So I'll have to do that after this training. Apologies for the interruption. Okay, so the 6 pillars of high performance that we cover in depth in High Performance Leadership Academy, and that I bring all of my high performance coaching clients through in a research-based framework. The largest body of research on high performance shows that they focus on these 6 pillars in very unique ways. It's the playbook that we use to achieve more joy and less stress. The world's highest performers perform consistently while maintaining their health and well being. They're happier, healthier, and less stressed than their peers. That's what got me hooked on this research because that was not my reality. And so I was more stressed, more anxious, more worried than most of my peers. And so pedaling as fast as I can, I was like a duck, just paddling, paddling, paddling. And on the surface, everything looked great. But underneath, man, I was filled with a lot of worry and tension and stress. So much so that it led to cancer. So we're trying not to do that anymore. So we have this built in believing mechanism, and our beliefs are a part of high performance psychology. So those 6 pillars, for those of you who are like me and love to take notes, are psychology, physiology, productivity, presence, persuasion, and purpose. It technically goes productivity, presence, persuasion. No, persuasion, presence, purpose. Whew! Let me go ahead and recap that. I'm doing this part from memory because this wasn't a part of my plan. Productivity, physiology. No. Goodness gracious. You can tell I've been up since 2:20, can't you? It's 11:20 Eastern where I'm at right now. And so this is me 8 or 9 hours into the day after a very little bit of sleep. Okay, let me take it from the top. Productivity. No, I'm trying to be productive with my time because I'm watching the clock. Psychology. Number one thing we've got to work on is our mind. Psychology. That's why I build the mindset of high performance leaders. Psychology. Daryl, thank you so much for your comment. I appreciate your feedback, and I'm going live in the heart and spirit of what God has placed on my heart, my friend. And I hope you can acknowledge and respect that. So, psychology, physiology, our health. I'm drinking an amazing mushroom coffee for gut health, for brain health, for focus, for courage, for my digestive system. And so, cheers to drinking things that nourish every cell in our bodies and making sure that we have a toxin free environment at home in our house. So, psychology, physiology, productivity, presence, persuasion, presence, purpose. Super fun topics to talk and geek out about. So, if you're a learner like me and you want to be out learning, those are some of the areas that I would highly suggest learning about. So, you're made to believe. You're wired for it. God made us this way. We're wired for belief, and we have to choose whether we're going to believe in the direction of fear or in the direction of our faith. And we can't do both at the same time. That's what's beautiful. You can only go, this is a continuum. You've got to choose to go one direction or the other. I want you this week making a commitment to turn your back on fear and turn your face to faith. Direct that. Faith will be working for you. Fear works against you. You have to decide how you're going to operate. Fear is actually faith in reverse. Fear believes that what you cannot see will come to pass. Faith also believes that what you cannot see will come to pass. Isn't that beautiful? Faith is your heart and your mouth. That's your second topic for those of you joining me in the training room. Heart and mouth. So I want you thinking about this quote from Frank Outlaw this week. Watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words become actions. Watch your actions become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. It all starts with words. And when we unpack our thoughts, a lot of us don't take it one step further. One of the best keys to my success is this little tool right here. For those of you in my training room, you know we train on this all the time, so I've got your little visual cue here. E, at the very bottom of the ladder, we have an experience. P, perception, perspective. We see, spectator, spectacle. We see things based on our experience. We don't see the whole story. That's an important part. I want you to, if you don't believe me, go ahead and look at Harvard researcher on the 7 sins of memory. Captured 7 ways that we don't remember things accurately. We only see parts of people also. That's something I've been learning in my dating life. I had a gentleman who I dated who said, I feel like you didn't see all of me. And I asked what he meant by that, and he wholeheartedly shared the parts of him that I didn't see. And I started to realize, wow, we see the world as we are. So I saw his high achieving self. I saw the loving side of him. I saw the sides of him that were actually reflected in me, which was a bizarre thing because as I study consciousness and I recognized that we're celestial beings having a human experience, I thought, oh my goodness, this physical body is actually just a reflection of light. And I started to wonder about things, and it was a really interesting epiphany. But to recognize that we're not seeing the whole truth is very powerful when we're choosing faith over fear. When fear is narrating our mind and our behaviors, we're only seeing a part of the story, and it's often the scarcity side of the story. So be very cautious. I always have my clients take this ladder, we rewrite their stories with great intention. We look at many ways of seeing the same experience. I challenge you to do the same. As a math expert, when I was in the classroom, I would ask my kids, hey, show me as many ways as you can solve this problem, right? And they would solve a mathematical equation using multiple modalities. We can experience life in multiple modalities and multiple dimensions, and we can certainly look at each of those dimensions in different ways. For example, cancer. If I can turn cancer into the second best season of my life, I know darn good and well that anything is possible. Literally, the worst diagnosis I've ever had was the second best season of my life. The first best was bringing my daughter into this world. That's literally how much I loved the season of cancer. The very beginning was not pretty, but the middle and this part that I'm in right now with recurrence prevention planning and making sure this house is beautifully toxin free, it is the most amazing and incredible journey of a lifetime. Beliefs is the next rung of that ladder, right? And that's why we've got to look at beliefs. Remember, your belief, what you believe, becomes your reality. And your beliefs, for those of you who are like, gosh, how do I get rid of the negative thoughts? The negative thoughts come from and stem from what you believe. For example, if you choose to believe in God, which my daughter has brought us back to church, and I've been knee deep in the Bible and scripture and consciousness and all kinds of things about Pleiadians and Syrians and everything that I can get my hands on. As I start to form certain beliefs, I notice my thought trajectory changing. So when you have negative thoughts, you have to push pause and climb down, descend the ladder. Like we talk about, you can ascend and descend this ladder. Descend that ladder and ask yourself, what belief is accompanied by that thought? For example, we can use Daryl here. Daryl says this is the completely wrong type of content to do. There's a belief underneath that thought that there's one way to do things. There's a belief that this way leads to success. And so that thought continues to manifest and then becomes action. And those thoughts and actions have corresponding energies. The reason that I have said no to working with you, Daryl, is due to your energy. So there are other corresponding beliefs that one might choose about vibration and energy and manifesting, for example. So I see the world as a space where I create miracles. Therefore, I have a belief that God is guiding me. I am very strong and affirmed in that. I eat a nutritional plan to be able to hear the voice of God. I have biobehavioral practices that not only prevent cancer recurrence, but have led to hearing the voice of God stronger and stronger each and every day. So I know and am affirmed that I am on course and doing the right thing. I also know about the laws of vibration and manifesting. And our manifesting comes from what I call my gals. They're 3 words that are the highest vibrational words, and I'm standing in those as my truth right now. And because I carry that belief, I have different thoughts. Those thoughts have an energy. That energy creates action that is far more beautiful than anything that happens when I choose. Again, remember, always choosing faith over fear. There's more, I want you focused on more emotional adaptation and less determination as you make things happen. Because when we align our emotions with our vision for our lives will affect our vibration. And ladies, in this training, I want you to write that down. Your vision affects your vibration. If you don't have clarity about your vision, this is where we start to work together in deeper ways. You can join High Performance Leadership Academy. The next cohort's kicking off August 6th. You can also sign on. I got to check my dates here real quick. The Clarity to 7 Figures free masterclass is the week of June 4th. And I also have 2 spaces available for one-on-one high performance coaching clients if you feel you want that level of depth and you want to go deep into these concepts in a one-on-one environment. So I want you to pay attention to the energy of these words. Think about this word. I know I'm being guided, and in time I'll receive divine direction. Versus, there's guidance being given. I don't know what to do about it. I can't even hear it, right? Well, there's biobehavioral choices that you can practice to hear these things. I learned them in my cancer journey. That's how God taught them to me. So let's talk as we wrap up. Solutions to overcoming self-doubt and limiting beliefs. So we talked about the 10 symptoms. Now we're going to talk about 12 solutions because we're going to over solution. This is just a choose your own adventure. Think of this as your menu. You just walked into the restaurant, you got a whole menu to choose from. You're going to pick one thing. Remember, we dial up to 90% long-term memory and retention when we're executing. So first one is positive affirmations, replacing negative self-talk with positive statements that reinforce your capabilities and worth. Number 2, set realistic goals. The world's highest performers use their productivity playbook. We make 3 columns, and then we strategically align action in those 3 columns. I've got a whole worksheet for those of you in the program. We'll be covering that in the productivity section. Celebrate successes. We acknowledge and celebrate even the smallest of achievements to build momentum. It's why I chose the atom as my logo for Building Brilliance, that the principles of Newtonian physics are in motion all the time. Mindfulness and meditation is number 4. This one is mission critical. You've got to manage your mind. There's a song by Sam Garrett called One by One. I highly suggest you go listen to it. He says, my friend, you must tend to the garden in your mind. That could not be more true. Whatever garden you've got growing up here will become the reality that you live in. So please don't let it be filled with weeds. Seek support. Surround yourself with supportive and positive people who believe in you. You have to be surrounded by high vibrational beings to manifest ultra levels of success. Remember, I'm your mathematician. I'm taking that normal distribution curve. I do not want you in the mediocre middle. Choose the right and align your behaviors with the behaviors of ultra successful people. Surround yourself with them. They have higher vibrational energy. They are delightful to be around and in the presence of. They are always lifting you up. They are never tearing you down. And stand in that space. Surround yourself intentionally. I call it engineering your environment. You choose that informal college because they're informing your beliefs. They're informing what you believe to be true. For example, when I used to spend time with people who drank alcohol, I thought it was normal to drink, to have a couple drinks after work. And so I did. As I've had to reclaim my own health, I now am so clean with my nutrition and my diet, and I hang around people who garden, who I don't even know the production process for cheese, but they make their own cheese, and it's absolutely delicious. They milk their own goats, and it's super nutritious, and you can literally feel the vibration of it as it's entering your body. It is absolutely incredible. And so it's that informal college that informs how you choose to live and the behaviors you choose. The behaviors you choose create the reality that you experience. So seeking support, I cannot tell you why that is so important to me that I made community a central pillar of High Performance Leadership Academy. Community is key. Capital unity when you write that in your notes. Challenge limiting beliefs. Identify and question the validity of those limiting beliefs and replace them. All you've got to do is a simple swap. It's just like meal planning. You take unhealthy things, you simple swap it, you end up with something that's less toxic to your body and creates and fuels your good mood and slim waistline. So be sure to write down your limiting beliefs and then correspondingly a replacement belief with that, more empowering thoughts. And then you can read those every single morning and affirm those to you. That's a 2-for-1. You get step 1 and 6 all in the same. Step 7, embrace failure. You have to just recognize when you experience a failure, it is only a stop on the pathway to success, my friends. You're undefeated. You've made it through 100% of the hard days so far, so you're not going to stop right now. Failure only becomes a failure if you choose to stop. So let's stay in motion and keep our momentum going. Number 8, keep a journal. Write down your thoughts and feelings. Gain clarity. Track your progress. Take a moment to look back and celebrate those wins and use that celebratory energy to strategically plan and manage the minutes for the week ahead. That's my favorite practice for our high performers. Number 9, self-compassion. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding, especially when you're embracing a challenge. Take time to acknowledge how difficult things might be. I loved taking my daughter. Hi, Bob. It's so great to see you. In January of this year, I took Gigi on, we called it our extraordinary life, no, extraordinary life adventure, lifestyle education adventure. I was doing an extraordinary life edit, and that's why that was getting in the way. I was looking at the things I wanted to edit out of my life and incorporate into my life. But for her, it was a lifestyle education adventure. It was part of our homeschooling program. So we explored the lifestyles of the beaches. We went to St. Pete, Madeira, Reddington Shores, Indian Shores, Bel Air, and Clearwater. Then we came up the Gulf Coast into the river areas of Crystal River and Homosassa and Denellen, and enjoyed swimming with manatees, sup boarding with snakes and crocodiles. Not my jam. I'll stick to the ocean. Thank you very much. And then came into the horse capital of the world and stayed in barn dominiums, and then later on a 30-acre homestead and farm. And so we really experienced all these different lifestyles. And during that time, we were just practicing self-compassion, honoring and acknowledging that that was one hellish year. To have cancer fall 2 days after being laid off, only 5 months after we'd tripled our mortgage and made big dreams come true, it was quite a storm to navigate. And so just push pause and say, for these next 3 weeks, we're going to push pause, take a break, enjoy a grand vacation together, and spend time talking and speaking our hearts and our truths. And I encourage you to try to weave self-compassion into your daily rituals and routines, because it makes a huge difference when you can soften and lean into that things are happening not only for you, but also because of you. The choices that you're making with great intention are yielding great results for yourself. So celebrate that. Number 10, continuous learning. You're doing it, my friends. You're here on Sunday Fun Day, investing as an entrepreneur. 80,000 of you. I can't even believe it. So very excited to see you acknowledging that there are limiting beliefs and self-doubt that creeps in because you're at the edge of your comfort zone. If you were staying in the confines of comfort in that mediocre middle, you wouldn't have self-doubt. You'd have predictability. When you scoot yourself standard deviations above the norm, you will end up experiencing self-doubt. So we just have to learn how to identify those symptoms and then have a strategy associated with what do we do when we see that and when we practice self-awareness. The world's greatest leaders have incredible self-awareness. They know how they show up. They know how they're received. They care deeply about how they're received and are able to adjust to be able to serve in their highest calling and from their highest self. So that's really important. And I celebrate you for being that high performance leader here today. Visualizing success. This one is my favorite. Remember your soul's contract. Your highest self has already achieved it. It's why that desire is in your heart. So get out of your way and just step into the energetic space of what it feels like when you've already achieved that goal. Allow your higher self who has achieved that to guide you. Scripture teaches us that the Lord delights in the details of our lives and directs the steps of the godly. Unfortunately, Scripture does not say the entire master plan. I used to wish for that, but what I really know is true is that if we had the whole master plan, we would be scared to death and we wouldn't take that first step. I noticed that moving from the city to the country. If God had shown me a 5,800 square foot home on 5 acres with a barn and said, you're going to live here, you're going to board horses, you're going to manage an Airbnb, you're going to raise ducks and chickens, I would have said, oh, heck no, I'm not. I cannot do that. But God first taught me how to manage the $1.7 million mortgage. And in a time when the economy, this was January of 2022 when I won the bid on this $1.7 million house. And it was a lot actually, and we were going to be building it. And the economy at the time, interest rates were on the rise. And so I started fear definitely crept in. And I started to be afraid because I'd never played at that level before. And I started to have to really get strong in my relationship with self-doubt and limiting beliefs. And what ended up happening was the builder poured the foundation on a 7-degree day, pulled the concrete forms too soon, backfilled early, Walls were displaced an inch and a quarter, honeycombing on every structural beam pocket. I felt like I got a PhD in concrete and construction management in Q1 of 2022. To make a very long story short, God delivered angels every step of that way. And I got out of that contract. I got my $50,000 of earnest money back, even though per contract they didn't have to give it to me. Praise the Lord. Thank you for bringing divine guidance into my life. That's a story for another day. That would take a whole hour to tell. And what was super, super beautiful is then one of the individuals who had provided some guidance in that journey said, "Why don't you just put the horse in the backyard? Why are you moving down to the barn where Gigi rides?" I said, "I don't know the first thing about managing a horse. How could I do that?" And he said, "You have Gigi." So I thought, yeah, let's invest. Why pay $800 a month to board a horse when I could be rolling that into my mortgage payment and writing it off on my taxes? Okay, here we go. Then we had the opportunity to buy a horse at a third the price that they wanted it for. And off we went to the races searching for our barn. So the reason that we have to focus only on the next step is because the grand plan that we've contracted for is so big that we wouldn't get started if we knew it. So we have to just surrender to that big visual of success. And I like to add, when I'm visualizing and manifesting, or something better, because often I don't know. I have my own limitations, right? And my own beliefs. And then number 12, my favorite, take action. So I want you to write down right now, go ahead and type it in the chat. What is one action you're going to take to step towards your goals? Because that will be where you build your confidence. And fear, remember, you've got to just choose one direction. So when you step in faith towards the highest vision of yourself and your life and your career, you can't be looking at fear. You're walking forward. You're facing that vision, and you can't hold both. So with that, I want to invite you to make shift happen. Shift away from fear and towards faith. And I want you to look inward at those 10 symptoms of self-doubt and identify them. Because once you identify them, you'll start to notice they creep into your life less and less and less over time. With that, brilliant beauties, I hope to see you in High Performance Leadership Academy August 6th. I would love to invite you to join the Clarity to Seven Figures Masterclass June 24th. I have to keep checking my dates. I'm terrible with dates. So I'm very grateful that my assistant has all of my notes structured and on my desk for me to cue into. Thank you very much for being with me today. I send you loads and loads of blessings. I raise my vibrational energy with great intention for you and shine love and light in your direction. I do want you to know that every single night I take out my map and I see all of you mapped all over the globe. And I literally start in my bedroom and I pour a golden globe of protection and love and light around myself. I extend that across the home to my daughter's room. I expand it across our acreage. I stretch the entire block. We have a stroke survivor across the street who lost his wife a few years ago. I pour tons in that direction. I pour tons in the direction of my dear friend, Gigi calls him my bestie, my dear friend Dan, who's retired and has been a gem and true treasure in our life. Him and his wife Jill have just been the biggest blessings we've had here. And so I pour loads over there. Then I go over to Mary Lisa and Norbert, who are our other lovely neighbors. And then I expand up and down the coast of Florida. I have clients on both sides, so I expand to their homes. I expand up the coast to my clients up in Massachusetts and in New York and in Delaware and Connecticut. Then I expand up into Canada and into Nova Scotia, all the way through the Midwest, across to Colorado, where I've got a huge footprint. I expand over into Nevada, Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii, and bless clients in those states, and across the globe over into Tel Aviv and into the UK and London, and I'm missing two, Ireland and Scotland. And so just surrounding my clients with so much love. And I want to expand that golden globe of love and light into your life today. And just know that God does answer prayers, and that it's this magical vibration that we can stay in that brings and leads us to great abundance in our lives. With that, my friends, go out and shine your love and light into this beautiful world. I raise my vibration for you and because of you. With love. Mwah. Let's see, finish you guys first.